This is a podcast for the living.
And we're your hosts,
Graham
and Saul.
And we're here to share with you all kinds of creative,
educational,
inspirational,
straight from the heart
content that could change your life.
What?
Podcast.
Rickety podcast.
Brain juice.
You about to get
Braingasms.
educated.
Brain stuff.
Take two.
Podcast number 4.
Episode 4.
4.
Season 1.
Take 2.
Yes. So, we normally like to have some narrative and structure to follow, but today we're just going to free ball it.
Freestyle it.
Free willy.
Free will it. Freelance it. All of the free things. We're doing them today.
We're very free.
We're feeling free.
Yeah.
So this week, what has happened in your life? What have you learned this week?
I feel like every week moves so fast and it's hard to keep track sometimes. And this week, I don't know. I'm feeling thoughtful. I'm feeling like I need to kick myself into high gear again. I'm just constantly learning from the things that we're doing.
Learning and being challenged and running into obstacles it has been a big one, even for this podcast. Just getting it started, especially the start of things, seems like a lot more challenging than once you get the ball rolling.
Once you're into something, then you're just in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Once you're, like 6 months into something, there's kind of no end in sight, and the start is now out of sight, so you're kind of just in the middle of that story.
Yeah.
Versus when you first start something, it's like where a child, they feel life span in a different way than an adult, right?
You mean like the time frame?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because everything's new for them, right?
Yeah. Totally.
So we're first starting this podcast, and so it's all new for us. The reactions are new, or which episode's doing better than the other episode. It's really easy to get into like the analytics of something and focus on that stuff.
Yeah.
When there's so few of the episodes.
And I would also say that we're both hyper analytical when it comes to all of our creations, because we're so focused on growth. We're always trying to push it to the next level, to the next stage, and figure out like what's going to push the organic growth, what's going to take us to the next level. But a lot of it is just this thing of persistence and just being consistent with it long term.
That's the only thing at the end of the day that matters, is are you going to make it to episode 100, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's like why, it's like you've said it before, like don't start something unless you're going to be able to follow through for 5 years.
I love that concept so much.
So that's what we need to do, and we almost need to just go into the rhythm of it. And that's where I was saying 6 months in, you're in the rhythm of it. You're not concerned, you're less concerned with analytics, but in the beginning you're just trying to almost validate, like, is this worth it, is this good, is this helping people, what is this,
to justify the action, to see if what you're doing is actually valuable. Which I that's the struggle for so many artists and so many different, because we all get these ideas, right? We get these creative, like, that thing, I must do this thing, I must delve into this new world. And then you delve in, and the initial excitement fades off. And then it's like, is this actually affecting people? And the mass majority of those that you're affecting or we're affecting don't really say much about it.
Well, that's definitely a hard part about it, is because we live now in a day and age, like even 20 years ago, online was more about engagement. I've seen over even my lifespan, I've seen the engagement decrease. We now treat social media more as like a Netflix platform where we're more observing, and there's less of a push to interact. And I even feel it too. I have to remind myself, like, okay, you can't just observe this content, Saul. You should be interacting with this person, because by even just saying, even throwing an emoticon on, it sort of helps validate that person's action. And it's just like when you walk past somebody on a path and we all get so used to not having to say hi to each other.
Totally.
We get so used to just ignoring each other.
Totally.
Versus just saying like hi or smiling at somebody it can really brighten someone's day. So kind of the same thing online. If you
doesn't
just
take much. A little bit of engagement goes a long way.
It does.
It's the funniest thing. We've talked about this before, but to share it with you guys, I'll be doing demonstration sales. That's what I've done for a living for the last, I don't know, like 10 years now. And I would be demoing to people, and there'd be like, I don't know, let's say 20 people in front of me, and I'm showing them a product, and I'll physically ask someone a question, like full on. It's like they are right here. It's as if I'm asking you a question, and I'll say, hey, like, let's say, what kind of stovetop you have? Is it glass? Is it a flat top, a coil, or an induction stove? And they'll just fucking blank face stare at me, like glaze over. And it's like, well, no, like I'm physically asking you a question. You can't, this is not Instagram, man. You gotta like respond to me here. But it's a common thing nowadays. It'll actually, we're trained.
We've been trained by social media. Like I notice these things in myself, how it's easy to go into that glaze mode. It's safer. It's like you're inside yourself and you don't have to interact and like, so it's tough because like even we've been on stage before, and like for me when I'm on stage I'm giving every ounce of my being to that moment in terms of vulnerability and passion.
And you'll be at a bar scenario and like people are just talking to each other, and granted they're there with their friends.
But the way I can break this down is that when I lived in Vancouver, the shows that I played there, I got kind of lucky. I played little festivals where basically we're in a theater, and so people are sitting in theater seats. The theater seats are kind of forcing them to look forward, and the whole theaters are laid out to make you pay attention to the person on stage.
Yeah. Like so even just the way you're facing forward, looking in a theater seat, look at the stage.
So I would do stuff like I got really like playful with it. Like one time I had my longboard and I rode out on stage with my belly on the longboard on the ground, and that's how I started my performance.
Yeah, I remember that.
And like, so I got playful, but the audience is paying attention, so you do that and they're laughing, and then all of a sudden you can actually be a comedian because they're paying attention.
Yeah.
Whereas when I moved to Saskatoon, I was playing bars, and I actually became super insecure as an artist because at first I couldn't really figure out what the difference was.
We didn't start our timer.
No, we didn't.
Hey Nova, can you check on the, sorry to interrupt.
We'll just start it now.
What time does it say on there?
7 minutes and 50 seconds.
Okay, so there you go. We got another 13 minutes left.
Okay. I'll just switch it down.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
Yeah, perfect. Sorry.
That's okay. I don't think we need to be so strict on the timing of it.
No, but we're trying to follow a structure, so.
Okay, anyway, when I moved back to Saskatoon, I became really insecure as a musician, and because I'd try to make like those jokes and stuff, but like you said, in a bar they're facing each other, and it's kind of like the norm here is more about that. They're more going out for socializing.
Mm-hmm.
And I just noticed I became insecure as a human, as a musician, and then I had to actually adapt to this. So you start playing different music. You start wanting to play with a drummer and a bassist, and you want to play louder music.
To capture the attention.
Yeah. Because now you're fighting for their attention versus in Vancouver, they were giving the attention. So I could just be an acoustic act, and everybody would get so much out of that because they're actually watching.
Yeah. Well, okay, let's talk about then how that translates to social media, where you literally have the entirety of someone's attention through, let's say, like a story, where now the story platform, which isn't really being leveraged as much as it should by a lot of artists, it has become this incredible way to access your viewers' attention, or to be creative, or to play in the same way that a stage is. We have this direct access to fans or viewers, listeners, watchers, whatever you want to call them, but yet there's not a lot of taking advantage of that platform. That not as much as I would like to see anyway, because it does seem to be the new place where the attention has gone to, where you're actually getting direct access of someone's attention, unlike the bar or unlike these other places that you might perform.
I think to riff off of that, in my mind, is that the attention is there, but because there is such high production value on something like Netflix, I think we've been trained by that production value that now I want to say we're kind of like spoiled. I feel that I'm kind of spoiled.
Definitely, as in production value wise?
Yeah, in terms of like the things that I like online have to be at a certain standard, so it kind of puts this pressure on the average person where like I'm not as entertained with just like the basic Instagram sharing or whatever.
No, I mean the same type of, that's what I mean, where the lack of creativity is the challenge, because when we are bombarded with the same variety of information over and over and over again, it's like, well, I've seen this. So you just end up skipping through stories that are like, oh, this person, like for example, somebody taking a photo of a song they were listening to on Spotify. I know some people get value out of it. Yeah. But for me, it's like, no, I don't care. I don't care what you're listening to for whatever reason, or I've seen too much of that, or typing, if there's too many words on a story, I instantly am like, no.
There are things that our subconscious is trained to skip over, because we're trained to know that we can hit either next frame or just next person. Yeah. So we become, because we have that power, and yes, it's like Tinder, because there's so many options. Yeah. You're more willing to say no, basically. Whereas like, in the old times, you go rent a movie or you go to a theater or whatever, there's less access, so you put the movie on and you finish it. Yeah. Now we put a Netflix show on for 10 minutes and we go, no. Yeah. Next. Yeah. And so, same thing on, it's like fast. You really, right now we're fighting for that attention. Like you have to be super creative. And for me, I end up putting like an excessive amount of pressure on what I'm feeling like what I'm doing is not creative enough. Feeling like I need to work on that. And
okay, well there's an interesting point there, because imagine you're on stage, you're always looking for a reaction from your audience. And so like you said, as the audience is not giving you the response that you want from them, they're talking to each other, then you want to play louder music, you want to capture their attention in whatever ways possible. So the same thing is true, right? It's like, here you have Instagram where there's a bunch of the majority is silent.
Hilarious.
But and so it makes you want to be more creative.
You want to coax response out of them.
But yet what you're doing is may be totally satisfactory. Maybe it's not. I don't know. Well, because the algorithm wants the engagement and wants the viewers to pay attention. So like, just rambling a bit here, but one of the things I'll do is, if you put like a really long story, so if you've got like 20 or 30 story posts in a row, if you just flip through to the end, you can see the percentage drop off, where it'll start with like, let's say 100 people watching. By the end, if it's down to 40, you didn't have that engaging of a story. It's like a 50% drop off. But sometimes you'll get those 100 that stay all the way to the end. Yeah. So that's one way you can kind of see the engagement. Yeah. But certainly it pushes you into more creative endeavors, we'll say.
Well, this is something that, like, for me, when I was a live sound guy in this town, I would be seeing, like, 4 nights a week, I'd be seeing all of the people who are seeing my content online, or at least a large percentage of those people who are seeing my content online. And so I'd be getting real world response and real world validation from those people. So then I didn't actually need it as much online. Right. But now, with everything shut down, I'm seeing even less people in person. Yeah. When I do see them, they say, "Oh yeah, I've watched the podcast."
They acknowledge the online content when you see them in person, but not until you're in person.
Not until we're in person, which, like, I totally get it, because like there was a time for me when I was on Facebook. I specifically remember being on Facebook and not ever liking or engaging in anything because I wanted to be invisible.
Yeah.
And then I remember as I started to post more content, I went, oh, I better start being visible. I better start engaging.
Yeah.
I remember making that conscious decision to become a part of the ecosystem.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, right now, lately, I've felt slightly... It's such a hard balance, because on one half of it, it's a thing where I'm playing and I'm trying different things, and if I stay light about it, then it's no big deal at all. But then on the other side of it, if I become too insecure one week, like I did last week, I had a few days of like just general insecurity, then all of a sudden I start feeling like what I'm doing, like my creative endeavor, the thing that means so much to me, I feel like it has no meaning to other people.
Yeah, because because part of the challenge is it's really hard to get organic growth right now on these platforms. And so when you're not seeing an increase in followers and you're not seeing an increase in viewership, it feels like you're kind of at this stalemate. But yet you still have to keep posting every day because you're trying to collect this attention to ultimately achieve this goal that you want to achieve. So it's a very strange place to be in. You feel, because the analytics are so good right now, you can look and see, oh, did I improve? And it's like, well, I haven't moved forward in 4 or 5 months. Well, what the fuck's going on? You know, like, so yeah, no, I totally understand that the vulnerability behind that.
It does feel like being on that stage, because I remember being on the stage with Graham, and like, yeah, to finish that story earlier, I was all this vulnerability, and then I could tell like people were looking at us as if we were just animals in a zoo. They had gone to a zoo.
Explain the story. Okay, we were doing an...
Well, we were just opening for a band, and yeah, we're doing live looping.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of energy and focus, and yeah, they're just kind of looking at us like how someone would look at an animal in the zoo, just like you can look at it and you don't have to necessarily interact with it or whatever. I just felt like I was in a cage and just being observed.
Which was weird, because we were opening for this band, and right after, as soon as we were off the stage, then when the main act came on, then all of a sudden all of the attention went forward, and they were much more present, because that's what they were there for.
Because they're a full band too, right?
Yeah, for sure.
If we were a full band, in that aspect, possibly.
Yeah, it's very possible.
And then they're also trained, like that band is a dance band. So
yeah, true.
But I took a moment and made the audience conscious. I told them the way I was feeling, that I was feeling super vulnerable, and then it felt like no one was even interacting.
I don't even remember. Did they respond to that, or
they did?
They did.
Yeah, they started to interact more, because I'm pretty sure they weren't even like clapping. I'm pretty sure they were like, a few of them were like...
Well, it was also at a restaurant, and they're all eating and stuff too, so there's...
For sure.
It's the common challenge of being in front of an audience, and you're in such a vulnerable state. You're giving so much... Like, in theater or improv or anything, any of those places, that is not a challenge. In film, no way. Everybody shuts the fuck up as soon as we're going... This is the second time I've spelled this. Being so dramatic with my hands. As soon as we're going, it's just like, no, everybody shuts up and the focus is entirely there. So it's a very unique challenge in the music world versus in other artistic mediums. Yeah.
I mean, the audience is a part of the performance.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
Because our hearts will start beating the same beat when we play music live, and like in comparison, for the best example was like the night before I opened for Mother, I was playing at Black Cat Tavern to like 8 people. So I went from playing for 8 people, pretty much the same set, playing for 8 people, to then playing for 1,000 people, and the energy difference it's insane. And I'm performing the exact same thing. And it's just a completely...
Did I perform that night before? Was that the Black Knight show that we did?
No.
Or the Black Hat? No.
No, I just did that one solo.
Okay, I want to say on this note, some of the best shows that we've ever done were to a group of 10 people in a house.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where you have complete focus and complete attention of those few people, and it's so intimate, and you can exchange like true connection and true words with those individuals. They can ask questions, you can ask questions, you actually learn about each other and connect. Yeah. To me, those have always been the best shows.
I think we have the lost art of paying attention. That we are kind of trained out of in this society, and like when someone pays attention to even what you're saying, if you're speaking with somebody and they're paying full attention to what you're saying, then you can like, it's so empowering. There's nothing as empowering as that.
It infuses you with the ability to speak your truth. I can attest to this 100%. When somebody's not fully paying attention to me in a conversation, I start to lose my train of thought. I start to lose my focus. I start to drift. It's like I don't even know. Sometimes I can't even finish a sentence if someone's not there with me.
Yeah.
So what does that say about the attention of the audience for the artist on stage?
It means a lot.
Yeah.
It means a lot. I mean, we're now living in a time where we're just performing at home for cameras, and I've heard time and time again people say that like live is where they like my thing the best, right? Mm-hmm. But that's because I'm engaging with the energy in the room, and so it's a personalized experience to that moment.
Yeah.
Whereas when I'm doing it at home, it's a completely different form of my musical journey.
Yeah.
I'm currently recording an EP. Luckily, the person I'm recording with, Matt Stinn, he's seen me live. So when it came time to record vocals, he's like, I've heard you live, and I want you to go there.
Yeah.
And so that was some of the hardest recording I've ever done, because I'm pushing my voice to sound as if it's in front of...
Without the audience, like manufacturing an audience in your imagination.
Legitimately. So then it's acting. At that point, it's acting. Yeah, it is, right?
For sure. And there's definitely a crossroad between acting and music. There's 100%. A very fine line there, which is maybe a podcast for another day, because we're at the end of our time.
We are, but I feel like we should keep going.
Well, I wanted to just mention that we're planning on bringing guests on at about the 10th episode. And we have a whole bunch of guests already starting to get lined up and reaching out, and that we've been talking to. A lot of really good, incredible, creative, focused, fascinating people that it's going to be really cool to talk to. And we'll likely expand the duration of the episodes once we start bringing guests on, because I suspect we're going to need a little bit more time to go into depth with those artists, those creators, whoever it may be. Did we want to touch on anything else? There was a few things I know. Oh yeah, we had a couple suggestions for what we were supposed to talk about this episode. So Saul, quick, what are your thoughts on aliens?
I think that you're an alien.
Good answer.
And that there's also aliens, probably. Likely. I don't know. I'm without being proven wrong. I haven't been proven wrong on aliens yet, so how can I be proven that there is or isn't, you know?
That's a solid answer. And whose comment was that?
Let me
find it quick. And I guess while he's finding that, the wrap up on this episode, we pretty much spent a lot of time talking about attention in this episode. I would say that was the primary focus of it. Would you say?
Attention?
Yeah, we mostly focused on attention, and a little bit on social media, a little bit on performance, the challenges of attention and the way that it interferes with performance or enforces it, and the ways that we kind of need to adapt based on the attention that's being given to us, and the ways that we feel like we want to adapt, whether if we're getting the engagement from, whether that be a live audience or an audience in studio or in any environment.
If we break it down to one-on-one, like you said, like, you don't really want to have a conversation with someone who isn't paying attention to you.
No, you don't. Absolutely not.
So based on those metrics,
yeah.
If you multiply
the one-on-one metrics, yeah.
Well, if you multiply to a creative stage endeavor, if the audience isn't paying attention, why do you want to play for them?
You definitely do not.
That being said, some of my favorite performances are when I know, like, I'm playing a restaurant and they're not paying attention.
Okay.
So then there's less.
So there's a line there, because if the audience is fully not paying attention, that's also okay, because then you can just do whatever the fuck you want. But if they're half paying attention, then fuck you guys.
Well, it's like, okay, when I go to a bar and I'm being asked to perform, then I want you to listen. But if I'm being paid to play at a restaurant where I know they're not there to pay attention to me, but I'm adding to their conversations, then that's enjoyable.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But if I was to do that for a living, if that was the only concerts I had, eventually it'd be annoying. They're only fun because I can practice up and do things that are risky, so that when I play for the audience that's paying attention, I've already taken those risks, so I know, I can blah blah blah. Basically, I take risks there, kind of thing. What you mean. Sure. The Aliens was from Jay Champagne.
Cool.
But you have to talk about your thoughts on Aliens quick.
Oh, yeah. Well, I just think that the probability of there not being aliens is ridiculous. And I mean, I love, my favorite comment on this is from Lil Dicky's song Pillow Talking, where he just, maybe you guys should just go listen to it. But
if you haven't heard it.
If you haven't heard it, it's really good. He just... I mean, there's a whole scientific argument on this too, but the way he talks about it, it's really funny, and he just makes a big joke about how, okay, if let's say we're talking about God here, if God can create humans and dinosaurs, why can't he also create other creatures? Are dinosaurs not somewhat comparable to what an alien is? Are other creatures on this planet that don't look like us not just a different species, and an alien would just literally be a different species on a different planet? It's really hard to argue with the size of the galaxy and the amount of the imperceivable space that is out there, that
never-ending multiple universes,
that there wouldn't be some other species created out there. Okay, granted, it's very limited because you have to be within a certain range from a sun, but there are fucking, I don't know how many billions and billions of suns all over the place.
But that's saying that there's only creatures living that have the capacity to only live.
It's only because of the right combination of things. They call it the green zone, where there's this right combination of oxygen, temperature, and this that makes organic life possible.
Sure.
Right? So you could have non-organic life as well, which would be, I don't really know, but why couldn't non-organic life exist as well?
Mm-hmm. And then if we talk about what aliens, the fact that we're aliens.
We're definitely aliens.
We live on a planet, and our bodies are formed based on the pressure that is applied on us, based on what is around us, right? Yeah. People who live in different places on this earth are pressurized differently.
If a person were to live on Mars, they say that a person living on Mars that was born on Mars would be 6 feet taller because of the gravity difference. Just that alone, the way that forces growth.
So literally, they could birth a child on Mars. It could grow to adult form, be way taller than humans, come back to Earth, and everybody would be alien.
Although if it came back to Earth, that would be, I don't know, that would do weird things, because you'd be used to, because imagine the other part is your bones wouldn't be as sturdy because gravity would be different, so you'd be more elasticy. You know what I mean? It's a very strange
exactly
idea.
And that's
really
only Mars.
Into it,
and that's only Mars, right?
Mars is technically still within that green zone. They've found water.
But there's definitely
on Mars.
other green zones.
For sure. And the gravity would theoretically be different just based on the size of the sun and a bunch of other variable factors there too.
So there's where you get